you're coming back to your project, you may need to run the Monogame Content Builder editor again, just doing a search. Click on it, and at first you won't have your project open. We had the sprite in there, so we'll just hit open, and it should remember which MGCB we were using. If not, you can navigate to that content folder, click on it, and it'll open it up automatically. I haven't done this before, but we're going to try to create a new effect in Linux. So let's add, let's right click here, right click, add, there we go. We're going to say new item, and we could go with the sprite effect template or regular effect. There's not really much difference, I don't think. So we'll just go with sprite effect, and we'll change the file name here to glow. Maybe we'll make the background glow or pulsate, or maybe we'll, I guess we could put a mask across it and animate it in two directions and calculate against that mask as a multiplier to determine some sort of glowing sparkle effect in the background. Or we might try something else. Let's just make it up as we go. So create, and right click and go open. Okay, what did it open it with? I think it opened it with text editor, so we'll say open with, and we'll say Visual Studio Code. Select. And by default we got shader model 4, but with DirectX 9 compatibility. That means you're not going to be able to create your arrays quite as big. There's going to be some limitation to retain that DirectX 9 compatibility for older devices and stuff. So we're probably going to go DirectX 10 or higher in our case. You can leave it like this if you want, but if you want to be able to do some really advanced stuff later, you might want to go with 4 or 5. I'm just going to leave it at 4. So this is the true version 4. Okay, so this is set up for your sprite batch compatibility. Everything here is based around how sprite batch wants to work. So we could create an overriding vertex shader and add that here as well. But in our case, we're just going to stick with the the pixel shader, the PS here, which means pixel shader. So you can call this whatever you want, main PS. Just make sure you change the name here if you change that name. I'll call it Glow Pixel Shader, Glow PS. You could just leave it as main if you want, it doesn't matter. So I've changed it down here too, and now what this normally does is at the current texture coordinate in memory that it's looking at as it loops through interpolating across the triangles that compose the quad, what it does is it checks the pixel color, and to do that it samples it using the text 2D sampler. The sprite sampler here, which you see up here, you could think of this whole thing as just the texture. By the way, I'm not too sure you even need this texture 2D sprite texture, but we'll just leave it the way it is. And let's see here. And then we multiply by the input color. Normally that's white, meaning 100% on all the channels, including the alpha channel, which makes it so that it's not see-through. If we change the alpha channel of the color to like 0.1 or something, it would be almost completely see-through. If we reduce the red channel, then it would have more blue and yellow or green dominance. So I'm assuming you already know a little bit about color multiplication. First of all, I think we should make sure we can compile this shader in Linux. And I don't know how to do that yet, so I may end up pausing this and figuring it out. And I already set up Wine. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but in most versions of Linux, there's a software manager of some kind. In Mint, it's right here. In Ubuntu, I think you can just, it's sort of similar. You can find it in the main menus. There should be something called Software Manager, and that allows you to install popular softwares. And so whatever you're looking for, you can either just find it under category or in here. You may already know all this stuff, or you can just type it in. So I can type in Wine. After you got Wine installed, I haven't even actually tested it yet, so we'll see what happens. I looked ahead in Monogame advice on compiling an effect in Linux. I found some information from Quirky. Might be saying that wrong. And it looks like we need to set a environment variable here in Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you're using. Or I guess you can go to your command line interface and just type in the environment variable, but you'll have to do it each time if you do it that way, each time you start the program. So I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code here, And we'll look for configurations. Open configurations. So what that did is it opened up the launch.json file, and in here under configurations we got name, type, request. I'm going to go down here after stop at entry and add a comma on the end so I can add a new one, and I'm just going to paste this because I found it on the web. Won't need a comma on this one because it's the last entry, but if you add another entry, remember to add a comma. And so for environment here, let's just see what he suggested. Suggested that we use this. So I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to paste it right here. And then here's what we're going to set it to. Go back. This would be the path that we need. So I'll copy this. This is what it equals to. And I'll paste it here. And then we change this less than user, greater than. Change that to whatever your username is. In my case, it's J. Oops, J is the correct one. So I'll save that and close it. Okay, we were looking at the setting up for Ubuntu earlier in Monogame documentation. Down here, we have the create wine prefix. Oh yeah, and we already installed wine. This is a 64-bit version. So yeah, we already installed that. So we should just need this script, and I think we already did that too. I'm guessing that script is this. It's already set up. I guess we'll go ahead and see if it'll build this effect. We'll go in here, make sure the project is saved, and we'll build it. Did not succeed at building. We got Microsoft.NET Core app version 3.1.0 was not found. Following frameworks were found. 5.0.6. And resolved by installing the specified framework and or SDK. And the specified framework can be found at here, apparently. Alright, so we'll get that. Before we try to install anything else, let's try logging out, and we'll try exiting Visual Studio Code and re-entering it so the environment variables are set, just in case that's the issue. And we'll load Monogame Content Builder and open, and I'm just going to try to build this. Okay, let's go back and remove that environment variable we added, because I believe the script is already setting it for us. Just going to take this out and save. Let's re-examine the message it gave us. Now I'll click here for more information. It says the framework we need is found at this location here. I'll just expand on the right side. Unfortunately, I don't seem to be able to highlight this and copy it. There may be a way to do that, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to put this in my browser. Okay, so I added it up here, and we'll see if that fixes the problem. Guess I'm on Linux, so click Linux, install .NET Core. So we'll want a .NET 3.1.0 is what it said. Thought we had that already. Let's look for, we're under Mint, which is a Ubuntu. I guess these are just different types of installers we can use. I'll just see if this works. So I want 3.1. I'll just click the top one. So I guess we'll just copy this and paste it and go to command line interface and let it do just that. I think it only did the first 2 lines because it tried to use this as a password. I guess we should probably do these one at a time from now on. Now let's make sure we install the SDK. Actually, let's just do this one at a time, just to be safe. And finally, after that's done, we'll grab the runtime to make sure that'll work. I think we can just do this all at once. Let's copy that and paste that. Okay, I might already have that. And I guess if there's something not working with that, there's troubleshooting here, and it also suggests replacing with this. And just to be safe, we'll make darn sure we're doing exactly what we're supposed to. I'm just going to do this again instead, in case I actually missed one of these. That's for the Wine64. Should be there, and I'm pretty sure we actually ran this script, but I'll just do it again. Maybe something's changed since then. I realized since we're doing this directly in the command line interface, when we were running this script before, it was stopping after it finished this part of the script. I think you're supposed to use something called, see, I don't know much about Linux. I think you're supposed to use some kind of bash script thing. I don't really know anything about that, so I'm just going directly in the command line interface. So the next 3 lines I pasted in there are here, and then I'm just going to paste in the remainder now. And now we got to make sure we set the environmental variable. We can do that in here too if we want. We might have to do it each time we start, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to add my username here and hit enter. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's see if this works. It says it succeeded this time. Wow. So I guess that was actually what the problem was. A combination of not having this, but mostly I think it was that we didn't actually finish running all of the script because we didn't do it properly. So basically what the issue was, right here, this wasn't doing what it's supposed to, I guess. So I just went and searched in Monogame and looked up for a solved topic under Community, and I found this here, Effect Compilation on Linux. And all I did was I went through all the steps again for setting it up under the Monogame documentation, and then I used this instead. But I noticed that if I put it directly in the CLI, that's this thing here, I think you're supposed to use something called bash or something. If you do it directly, it'll stop after it unzips right here. And it might ask you if you want to overwrite and stuff. I hit always and it'll just overwrite all of that. But then you need to run this set here, and then after that's done, copy and paste this and do that. So if you're doing it that way, the way I did it, then you have to do those in pieces. Alright, yeah, so that works. Now it'll just be the regular sprite effect that it's using by default because we didn't change anything here. But just to test it, we could put in something that colorizes this only using the red channel instead of the input color, and then we'd know that it's using this. Let's replace the default pixel shader for sprite batch by modifying the begin. That we're going to use our glow.effects, even though it doesn't do any glowing yet. Just want to test to make sure that our effect is going to work with it. Set sampler state, let's say linear wrap, depth, none, rasterizer state, none. Now here we can set the effect. I think I'm going to call it glow FX, and we're not going to modify the world matrix, so we'll just set that to null. We got to add a effect up here. Effect, glow effects, and then load it, and load. Glow effects is equal to content, load, effect. And let's make sure we get the capitalization and small letters correct. Okay, it's just glow, all small letters. Okay, and this should work. I'll hit F5. Oh, I didn't save it. Always save it first, otherwise it won't make any modifications, I think. 5. Okay, it appears to be running with the new effect. Let's just make sure. We'll make a small modification to that glow effect. So let's go into it. So instead of using the input color, let's go float 4, and we'll go 1F for red, 0.1, let's go 0, 0, I don't need the F in here, alpha 1, and see if that builds. Save it first, Control S, and rebuild that. Successful. And then we'll hit F5 for our project. And obviously the effect is working. so, but we do want to colorize it using our input. Color has a capital.